Welcome to Boardroom Files Research, where we analyze corporate strategies and their outcomes, examining what works, what doesn't, and why. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most expensive strategic missteps in recent tech history: Reddit's decision to block mobile web access and force users to download their native app. This decision, which cost the company over $200 million in infrastructure investment, has become a textbook case study in how good intentions can lead to catastrophic business outcomes. Let's break down what happened, why it happened, and what every company should learn from this massive failure. First, let's establish the baseline. Reddit's leadership, particularly CEO Steve Huffman, announced the app-only strategy with a clear objective: improve user experience and increase engagement metrics. On paper, this makes sense. Native apps typically offer better performance, personalization capabilities, and more sophisticated user tracking. Companies like Facebook and Instagram have successfully driven users toward their native applications over the years. However, Reddit's execution and market analysis proved fundamentally flawed. Let's talk about the financial hemorrhaging. According to Reddit's 10K filings and quarterly reports, the company spent a staggering $230 million on marketing and advertising in the last quarter alone following the app-only launch. This represents a 53% increase from the previous quarter's $150 million spend. But here's where it gets worse. Despite this massive increase in marketing expenditure, user acquisition actually declined rather than accelerated. This is the opposite of what should happen when you dramatically increase your marketing budget. The acquisition cost dynamics are particularly instructive. Industry research indicates that the average cost of acquiring a new user for a social media platform hovers around $10. However, Reddit's cost per acquisition has ballooned significantly. When you divide their $230 million quarterly marketing spend by their actual new user additions, you're looking at a cost per acquisition that approaches $50 to $75 per user, 5 to 7 times the industry average. This represents a catastrophic failure in marketing efficiency. Now let's examine the user acquisition data more closely. According to third-party analytics firms tracking Reddit's growth, the platform experienced a 20% decline in new user acquisition in the 6 months following the app-only implementation. This is particularly damning when you consider that before this strategy, Reddit was consistently growing at approximately 10% per quarter. The strategy didn't just fail to accelerate growth, it reversed it entirely. We're talking about the difference between adding millions of users to losing millions of users on a quarterly basis. This user exodus directly impacted revenue. Reddit reported a 15% decrease in advertising revenue following the app-only transition. Think about this logically. Fewer users means fewer impressions, which means fewer advertising opportunities. Advertisers pay for reach, and Reddit suddenly had less reach. Several major advertisers publicly stated they were reducing their Reddit spending due to the declining user base and engagement metrics. But why did this happen? Let's examine the strategic miscalculation. Reddit conducted internal research showing that while app users had higher engagement metrics per session, they completely overlooked critical data. 40% of their user base preferred accessing Reddit through mobile web browsers. This preference data came from their own analytics, yet leadership chose to ignore it. They assumed that forcing users into an app would simply convert mobile web users to app users. Instead, many of those users simply left the platform entirely. This isn't the first time we've seen this strategy fail in tech. Let's look at comparable case studies. Twitter attempted a similar app-first strategy with their redesigned mobile web interface in 2019, deliberately degrading the mobile web experience to push users toward the native app. The result: massive user backlash, temporary user base decline, and eventual reversal of the strategy. Tumblr's 2018 attempt to remove adult content specifically impacted their web-based user base first, leading to a 30% decline in web traffic that cascaded into overall platform decline. These weren't isolated incidents. They are patterns that Reddit apparently didn't study before committing $200 million to their own version. Let's discuss the infrastructure investment more carefully. Reddit spent over $200 million on infrastructure specifically designed to support the app-only transition. This included server optimization, API development, push notification systems, and in-app advertising frameworks, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data on tech infrastructure costs. The average cost of developing and maintaining a consumer-grade mobile app ranges from $100,000 to $500,000 annually for most companies. Reddit's costs were astronomical by comparison because they were essentially rebuilding their entire backend architecture specifically to eliminate web access rather than support both platforms. Per IRS Publication 590, companies can deduct the costs of developing and maintaining applications from their taxable income. Reddit presumably made these deductions, providing some tax benefit for their massive infrastructure spending. However, this tax benefit doesn't offset the catastrophic business impact. The company spent $200 million to solve a problem that didn't exist, in the process creating massive new problems. Market research conducted by independent firms surveyed Reddit users about their platform preferences. The findings were clear. Users appreciated having options. A full 40% of respondents indicated they would reduce their Reddit usage if mobile web access were removed. Reddit's data science team presumably had access to similar internal metrics before launch, yet proceeded anyway. This suggests the decision was driven by other factors, possibly pressure from investors focused on app-based metrics, or leadership's personal conviction that app-only was the inevitable future. Here's a critical insight that many companies miss. User choice and platform flexibility are often more valuable than forced consolidation. Companies that succeed long-term give users multiple pathways to access their content. Netflix offers web, app, smart TV, and streaming device options. Amazon operates on web, mobile app, and Alexa simultaneously. These companies understand that different users have different preferences, and removing options doesn't convert preferences, it converts users to competitors. The engagement metrics that initially drove this strategy also merit examination. Yes, native app users typically show higher engagement. They receive push notifications, they're more habituated to opening the app regularly, and they spend more total time on the platform. However, this higher engagement is often engagement with the app interface and notifications, not necessarily engagement with content. It's a hollow metric if the overall user base is shrinking. Reddit essentially optimized for the wrong outcome. Several industry analysts have noted that Reddit's timing was particularly poor. The strategy launched during a period when alternative platforms and communities were fragmenting the social discussion space. TikTok, Discord, and specialized forums were simultaneously competing for Reddit's user base, forcing a migration to native apps, requiring download, requiring account creation confirmation, and requiring push notification permissions created friction at the exact moment when competitors were offering frictionless alternatives. It was strategic malpractice. In conclusion, Reddit's app-only strategy represents a $200 million lesson in misaligned incentives and ignored data. The company spent an enormous sum of money to reduce user choice, which resulted in declining user acquisition, declining revenue, and declining market position. Steve Huffman's stated intention to improve user experience backfired spectacularly because the strategy was disconnected from actual user preferences and market realities. This case should serve as a cautionary tale for any company considering similar forced migration strategies. If this deep dive analysis has provided valuable strategic insights, please hit subscribe for more corporate strategy breakdowns. We're dropping our next video on Friday, where we'll be analyzing NVIDIA's hidden cost of compute vs labor arbitrage, examining how computational decisions impact corporate economics. Ring the bell so you don't miss it. What's your biggest takeaway from Reddit's strategic failure? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this strategy was inevitable, or was there a clear inflection point where leadership should have reversed course? Remember, in strategy, the quiet observer wins.